Howard, let's hit you with a Broncos question first and foremost. There's a website out there, pretty famous website, that says the Broncos are one of 4 teams that they believe can win the Super Bowl or can get to the Super Bowl if it was played right now. Do you believe the Broncos are there?
You know, I don't know if they're there right now. I don't know if any team. I mean, I guess I could argue that some teams are capable right now. But the way I look at this league usually is that there's a bunch of teams that obviously are going to get into the postseason, and once you get there, anything can happen. And I do believe that the Broncos certainly are capable and should get to the postseason. Then it becomes a matter of obviously playing good games when you're there, because it doesn't take that many wins to get to the Super Bowl. What I find intriguing about the Broncos right now is how it's almost as if their identity is changing somewhat from, obviously Peyton Manning's important, but it seems to be almost more about defense than anything else, and they're able to win games when Peyton has passer ratings in the 60s or things like that. But, you know, I look at the AFC, and obviously New England is a team that everyone is going to say is definitely Super Bowl capable. After that, I don't know who is. I believe Cincinnati might be the most talented team in football. The question is, can they win a playoff game? We don't know that until they do. But other than that, I think that it's wide open. It really is, and whoever hot, whoever wins the games at the right time and is the healthiest going into the postseason are going to be the teams that advance. But you know, I think that it's good that the Broncos haven't played overall their best football these first 4 games, and yet they're still undefeated.
Well, Howard, despite what Les says, I don't want the Super Bowl played now, because then we'd sit here for 3 months going, what do we do now?
We can't wait till football starts again.
Yeah. So let's hold off on that. Is Peyton Manning dead? I mean, do you think it's his last season based on what we've seen? I mean, you just mentioned it. Passer ratings are in the 60s. He's throwing interceptions every game. He is. You talked about the identity changing. Talk about it. Two years ago, this team scored more points, 3 years ago, whatever it was, more points than anybody in history. They were scoring 50 points a game. Now they can barely score 28 points a game. From a distance, I mean, does Peyton look like he's finished you?
It's a great question, and I think he obviously, I'm not breaking new ground to say he's not what he was, but you know, those seasons were historic. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often, and you can't count on that. But I think the thing that is there, obviously, is it just seems that when they need it, when they need that drive, or when they need the plays, that he's still able to make them. And certainly, I think it's going to be important that they develop that running game, which we know that Gary Kubiak wants to do. And yesterday it was there, in flashes, maybe not consistently. But it was there good enough that they were able to mix it up in that final drive and get into range for what turned out to be the winning field goal. So I still believe you can win with Peyton Manning, because when it comes to crunch time, they have the people that that can get it done. But there's no question that they're not going to be a team that's scoring 30, 40 points automatically like they were for a couple of seasons. And in some ways that can be a good thing, because that usually is not sustainable. It doesn't usually last, and you better have the other ingredients necessary to be a winning team, especially when you get to the postseason and the weather isn't great and there's all kinds of different factors that enter into it, and you're playing better teams. So I think in some ways that could be a good thing for them.
And I think you're an inspiration to me, Howard. I think I'm going to write that you play Brock Osweiler for 3 quarters and then put Peyton in for the 4th quarter. And so then you'd have a guy that is great during crunch time, and you'd have a baby guy that doesn't throw.
Yeah, that would make Peyton happy.
Are we here to make Peyton happy, or are we here to get this team?
Well, if Mom ain't happy,
let me switch to you.